You are listening to a Life in Quebec podcast. For more, visit lifeinquebec.com.
Hi, you're listening to a Life in Quebec podcast. This is Ruby Pratka. The article you're about to hear is Le Marginal, Food and Human Contact for Quebec's Homeless, written by me, and it appeared in the March edition of Life in Quebec magazine. So here we go. Mathieu Deschaines pulls his latest creation out of the industrial oven, and the smell of spicy tomato sauce fills the room. He calls the casserole Italian rice. He's used to being creative with donated vegetables. Rice, tomato sauce, celery, bell peppers, a few other vegetables, and some Italian sausage, he explains. We need to make something that's filling. Some of our clients won't have had that much to eat all day. Deschaines and his colleague, Pascal Bouffard, are preparing dinner for several dozen homeless youth in downtown Quebec City. When the casserole, salad, and hot dogs are ready, they load everything into an aging camper van known as Le Marginal and set off. 2 nights a week, the camper makes one stop downtown and another in Place du Ville. Homeless or precariously housed people can come in for dinner and coffee. They can take small bags of food home with them, dispose of dirty needles, and rummage in the box of donated clothes. Bouffard and Deschaines connect people with services and assist them with paperwork. The camper also provides an intangible gift, human contact. If you're panhandling or if you're on your own all day, you can spend the entire day without a single meaningful conversation, says Deschaines. Imagine how hard that is. Bouffard, Deschaines, and the other volunteers are friendly with their young clientele, exchanging hugs, handshakes, and backslaps while filling coffee cups and distributing hot dogs. These people have to fight so much to eat and stay warm, says Louis Baudouin, a volunteer. When they're here, I want them to get some rest and leave their worries outside to feel welcomed and loved. About 40 men and women come into the camper on one particularly cold night, some walking confidently, some timid, some stumbling drunk. We don't turn anyone away, no matter how drunk they are, says Bouffard, a trained substance abuse counselor. Shelters can't work that way because they have to deal with the person for 8 hours. We only have to deal with them for 30 minutes. The visitors talk about their dreams. Several say they'll accept a job, any job. One young man wants to be a professional wrestler. I want to go back to school and be a nurse's aide, but I need to get my secondary 4 first, and I'm doing that now, says Andréane, a shy woman in her early 20s. This keeps me from paying for dinner. I just want to wake up better one day, says Jean, an unemployed chef who has struggled to make ends meet since being injured on the job. The camper has helped take the weight of paying for food off his shoulders. Right now, I'm paying for the apartment and for my health. The work ruined my hands, and I need work done on my back, he says. He briefly shows his hands, red, inflamed, and claw-like. When this is over, I want to work in a warehouse. I don't believe in social assistance. Jean says the van has brought him more than food. We're like a family in the camper, he says. Even if you're on social assistance, you only get about $500 or $600 a month, just enough to live on, adds Eric, another frequent visitor. That's why people from everywhere come and eat here, from Saint-Roch, from Sainte-Foy, from Beauport. Deschaines knows what many of the visitors are living through. He says he's been through it himself. I think my past does help some people to trust me, especially in the beginning when you have to create a bond with people, he says. I don't have anything in my family that would have predisposed me to homelessness. I was educated, I came from a good family, and I had worked since I was 16. But these things can happen, he says. He started using drugs and resorting to petty theft while at university to finance his habits and to pay for production expenses for a rap album. In a few years, he was on the street. I call it the toilet bowl theory. When you flush the toilet, at first it turns slowly, but then it turns faster and faster until everything's down the drain, he says. Maybe at first you miss a meeting with a friend, then you show up late to work and get a warning, and it happens again, and you lose your job, and on and on and on and on. He lost an apartment when he couldn't pay the rent. He couch-surfed with friends and relatives, and occasionally slept on park benches. Not knowing where you're going to sleep is a constant worry, and when you get high, it's the only time you feel life isn't so bad, so your entire life is organized around that. We run into that in the camper. Not all of our people have drug problems, but a bunch of them do. I'd sold everything I had. I was stealing to get money to live. I was committing crimes, and I wasn't very subtle about it. The turning point was when I got arrested. For some people, that's the only thing that can stop them. Deschaines served a month in prison, enrolled in a job skills program, and began giving talks about drug addiction in schools. He was hired as a drug prevention counselor in Montreal. He lived in fear of being outed as a former addict with a criminal record. I told the interviewer that I had given talks about drug prevention based on personal experience, and you'd think that would raise a red flag, he says, but no, I thought sometimes miracles happen. After 3 months, Deschênes was marked for promotion, and that's when his boss discovered his criminal record. He was out the door. I guess the board members could already envision the cover of the Journal de Montréal, Un délinquant s'occupe de vos enfants. So that was it. We tend to judge people who lived on the street too harshly, he says. Living in a bad situation doesn't make you a bad person. He returned to Quebec City and took short-term jobs to save up to study specialized education. I thought I should take some of the things I had done and seen that were negative and try to turn those into positive things, he says. He interned at the St. Vincent de Paul Society, which hired him permanently despite his record. That's where he started working with the camper. When someone is hungry and you give them something to eat. When someone's in distress and they leave better. That's really gratifying, he says. It makes me feel like what I did, what I lived through. All of that wasn't just for nothing. Some names have been changed and family names omitted in order to protect the privacy of Le Marginal's clientele. Thank you for listening. This was a Life in Quebec podcast. The article you just heard was Le Marginal, Food and Human Contact for Quebec's Homeless, written by myself, Ruby Prodka. It appeared in the March edition of Life in Quebec magazine. For more, please visit lifeinquebec.com. Have a nice day.
You are listening to a Life in Quebec podcast. For more, visit lifeinquebec.com.